Captain Jack Rayner stepped off the shuttle and looked up at the shining towers of Threxia Prime. The sky above was soft green. The air smelled like sweet flowers and old stone. The planet was peaceful, too peaceful. After years of war, Jack didn't trust peace anymore. He adjusted the collar of his uniform and followed the alien guards through wide crystal halls. Every wall sparkled with color. Every step echoed in silence. He wasn't here as a soldier today. He was here as a diplomat, Earth's last hope for forming an alliance with the Threxian Empire. The guards stopped in front of a grand door made of blue glass. One of them, tall and silver-skinned, spoke. "The Queen waits inside." Jack nodded and walked in. The throne room was large and cold. At the far end sat Queen Varela, wearing a long robe of golden threads. Her eyes were sharp like a knife, but her face looked tired. Beside her stood a small child, no older than 2. Her skin shimmered like silver dust. Her eyes were too big for her face, and she was screaming, loud, painful, never-ending screams. The noise hit Jack like a punch in the stomach. "That's your daughter?" Jack asked, trying to hide his shock. The Queen didn't answer at first. She simply waved the guards away. Once they left, she stood and walked toward him slowly. "Yes. My only child. Her name is Lenari. Can't. She has not stopped crying since the day she was born." Jack stared at the child. She clutched her head, rocking back and forth, tears running down her small cheeks. "She cries all the time?" Jack asked, confused. The Queen nodded. "Night and day. No medicine helps. No healer can calm her. Even our best scientists don't know why. She is suffering, and I cannot reach her." Jack frowned. He had seen pain in battle and broken cities and starving children, but this was different. This was pure sorrow coming from a child who should have known only warmth and love. "Why am I here?" Jack asked, more carefully now. Queen Varela looked him in the eyes. Her voice was quiet, shaky, because something strange happens when you humans visit. The crying grows louder, sharper, like she's remembering something. We don't understand it, but we think it's connected to your kind. Jack felt a chill crawl down his back. Connected to humans? How? Then she said something that stopped his thoughts completely. "Captain Rayner, if you can calm her, even for 1 full hour, I will grant you anything, even my hand in marriage." Jack blinked. "Wait, what?" The Queen raised a hand. "I'm serious. You may think it's a joke, but I speak from desperation. I would marry a ghost if it meant peace for my daughter." Jack chuckled awkwardly, but he could tell she was telling the truth. "I wasn't planning to get married today," he muttered. Still, the Queen looked at him with pleading eyes, not royal eyes, mother's eyes. "Please," she whispered. "Try." Jack stepped forward. As he got closer to Lenari, the cries grew sharper. The child looked at him, eyes wide, and screamed louder than before. Her hands trembled, her feet kicked. Her entire body shook. He stopped. "She's terrified of me," he said, heart sinking. But then something odd happened. The lights in the room flickered. For a brief second, everything became dark. And in that moment of darkness, Jack heard something. Not with his ears, but inside his mind, a sound, a whisper, a memory that was not his. "Help me." The lights came back on. The child kept crying, but now it sounded different. It's like she wasn't just crying at him, but for him. Jack stepped back, his breath uneven. "What was that?" he asked. Queen Varela looked shaken too. "I don't know, it has never happened before." Jack walked around the room thinking fast. Something strange was going on. This wasn't just fear. The child's cries weren't random. They were familiar, like a song played on the wrong instrument. He tried something simple. He knelt down, far from the child, and began humming a lullaby from Earth. Something soft, something human, something his mother once sang when he was small. At first, Lenari's crying didn't change. But slowly, her screams became sobs, and then just soft whimpers. She looked at Jack again. Her eyes didn't scream this time. They looked confused, curious, like she had heard that song before. Queen Varela gasped. She's never stopped like this? Not for anyone. Jack kept humming. Didn't look directly at the child. Just let the sound float in the air. For 10 full seconds, the room was almost quiet. Then the child began crying again, but not as loud. Not in pain. More like a child waking up from a bad dream. Jack stood up slowly, I think. She knows that song. Or something like it. The queen looked stunned. But it's from your world. Your Earth. How could she know it? Jack didn't have an answer. But he had a strange feeling deep in his bones that the girl wasn't just reacting to him. She was reacting to his history. He looked at the queen. I'm going to find out what's wrong with her. And I'll keep my end of the deal if I succeed. The queen raised an eyebrow. Even the marriage. Jack laughed. Let's see if I survive first. They both smiled. Just a little. For the first time in many months, the queen smiled. But as Jack left the room, he looked back once more. The child was watching him. Silently, her tear-stained face turned toward him like she had known him her whole life. The next morning, Captain Jack Rayner woke early in the guest quarters of the royal palace. A servant had brought him fruit, hot water, and a strange blue drink that tasted like mint and fire. But Jack didn't care about food. His mind was still stuck on Princess Lenari, the crying child, the strange darkness, and that whisper in his mind, "Help me." He walked through the long crystal halls alone, thinking hard. Something was wrong with the child, yes, but it wasn't sickness. It felt older, deeper, like a shadow hiding behind her eyes. He asked to see the palace library. The Threxians were known for keeping detailed history records, going back tens of thousands of years. Maybe there was something there, a clue, a reason why a child would cry like that at the sight of a human. The library was silent and cold. It was filled with floating books, glowing scrolls, and cubes of light that spoke when touched. Jack searched for hours. He looked through medical records, psychic research, even old myths. Most of it made no sense to him, but one file caught his eye. It was titled Echo Trance Phenomenon, Memory Transfer Through Bloodlines. The summary shocked him. In rare cases, powerful emotions or trauma can pass through generations, especially in children born from genetically mixed lineages. Memory fragments may cause confusion, fear, or pain, especially when triggered by certain sounds, scents, or species. Jack leaned back in his seat. Was that what Lenari was experiencing? Ancient pain? But why would humans trigger it? He asked. A royal assistant to check Lenari's genetic records. The assistant hesitated, then agreed. After an hour, Jack was handed a data crystal. He plugged it into the translator device on his wrist and read the results. His eyes widened. This can't be right. A portion of Lenari's DNA, small but clear section matched human genetic structure. Human, earthborn. But how? Strexians. And humans had only met a few decades ago. There was no history of contact before that, or was there? Jack hurried back to the throne room. Queen Varela was seated, speaking with her advisors, but when she saw Jack, she waved them away. You look like you've seen a ghost, she said. Jack held out the data crystal. I think your daughter isn't just afraid. I think she's remembering something. The queen's face changed. Go on. Jack told her everything. Old records, the DNA scan, the possibility of genetic memory. He explained how trauma from long ago could still live in blood. He told her how his lullaby calmed Lenari, because she had likely heard it before, not in this life, but in a past she had inherited. The queen was silent for a long time, so she cries, because she remembers pain that is not hers. Jack nodded. I believe so, and I think it's human pain. From Earth, the queen whispered something in her own language, something Jack didn't understand. Then she stood. Come with me. She led Jack to a hidden part of the palace underground, below even the throne. The walls here were old, cracked, were carved into stone. Lights flickered dimly. This chamber, she said, has not been opened in hundreds of years. Not even I knew what was inside till Lenari was born. Then the dream started. Voices, Memories. She touched the door. It opened slowly. Inside was a small round room, and in the center, a strange object floated in the air. A sphere of black. Stone pulsing with red lines. Jack felt something the moment he stepped in grief. Deep, cold grief. "What is that?" he asked. The Queen looked at it with fear. "We don't know. We call it the memory seed. We believe it came from the stars long ago. Some say it was a gift, others say it was a warning." Jack stepped closer. The sphere pulsed, and suddenly he saw something. A vision. Flashes of war. Humans and aliens standing side by side, cities burning, child screaming. A woman looking like the Queen, holding a baby that cried just like Lenari. Then everything went dark. Jack fell to the ground. "Jack," the Queen shouted, rushing to him. He gasped, catching his breath. I saw her, Lenari. But it wasn't her. It was someone like her. Long ago, she cried just the same." The Queen's voice shook. "Do you believe we knew humans before?" Jack stood slowly. "Yes, I think our species were once connected. Long ago, before we both forgot." The Queen turned to the sphere. "And my daughter carries that memory inside her." "Yes, that's why," she cries. "Because the pain is too old to understand, but it's real." They left the chamber, back in the present. Later that day, Jack asked for permission to try again with Lenari. The Queen agreed. This time, Jack didn't just hum. He sang softly an old Earth tune, one his father sang during cold nights in space. A song about stars and finding home. Lenari stared at him. Her hands stopped shaking. For a full minute, she was silent. Then she crawled toward him. Jack didn't move. She reached out with small fingers and touched his wrist. She didn't cry. She didn't smile either, but she was quiet. And to the Queen, that was more precious than gold. Tears filled her eyes. She's never done that before. Jack nodded slowly. "I think she's starting to trust me." That night, Queen Varela invited Jack to dinner in her private chambers. The mood was soft, the lights low. She didn't wear her crown. She looked like a woman, not a ruler. "You did something no one else could," she said. "I just listened," Jack replied. "That's more than most ever do." They talked for hours. About war, peace, family, pain, hope. At one point the Queen asked, "Do you remember your own mother?" Jack nodded. "Yes, she died when I was young, but I remember her voice, her touch, her stories." The Queen looked at her hands. "Want Lenari to remember me with joy, not screams?" Jack reached out and touched her hand. "She will, I promise." Just then, a sound came from the hallway. Soft, strange, a child's voice. "Jack." He stood up quickly. The Queen followed. They rushed into the hall, but it was empty. No, Kyle. No footsteps, just silence. The Queen whispered. That was her voice. "But she's asleep in the next room." Jack stared into the shadows. Then who said my name? Captain Jack Rayner could not sleep. He stood at the edge of his guest room balcony, staring up at Threxia's glowing moons. The stars looked different here, bigger, closer, but his thoughts stayed on one thing. Lenari. The memory of her soft voice calling his name still echoed in his mind. Jack. It had not been a dream. He was sure of it. But how could the child speak so clearly when she had never spoken a full word before? And why had her voice come from the hallway while she was asleep? He turned to his datapad. The scans from earlier still showed something impossible. Lenara's DNA was mixed with human code. Not similar. Not copied. Human. The only explanation was that humans and Threxians had once shared blood, long before modern records. But how? When Jack knew there was more to the story, more to the child's pain. He sent a message to Earth Command. Request urgent access to ancient Earth genetic logs. Need confirmation of deep code match with Threxian royal child. Possible. Shared ancestry or old migration event. This is bigger than diplomacy. Then he headed back to the palace nursery. The guards nodded as Jack entered quietly. The room was dim, glowing with soft green light from floating crystals. Lenari lay in her hovering crib, sleeping, no crying, no screaming. Peaceful Jack sat beside her, whispering softly. "You called for me, didn't you?" "Why?" He took out a small object from his Pokita music chip. It held recordings of Earth lullabies, songs mothers once sang in refugee ships. He placed it in the air near the crib. The melody began. Lenari stirred, her eyes opened slowly. She didn't cry. She looked at Jack, calm, silent, and then softly. She hummed the tune. Jack's heart froze. "You know this song?" She didn't answer in words, but she reached out again, touching his face gently. Tears filled Jack's eyes, not from fear, from connection. This was more than memory, than a link. She was remembering something she had never lived. Later that day, Jack met Queen Varela again, this time in the royal gardens. She looked tired but hopeful. "The palace is talking, whispers of what you did last night. Some believe it's magic." "It's not magic," Jack said. "It's memory, old memory, hidden in blood." He explained what happened in the nursery, how Lenari hummed the lullaby, how she recognized the song. The queen listened with care. "My people will fear this," she said. "Some already say you're awakening something that should stay asleep." "And let them know the truth," Jack replied. "She's not broken. She's remembering. The pain in her isn't sickness, it's history. It was never hers. She's just carrying it." The queen looked into the distance. "Is there a way to remove it?" Jack shook his head. "I don't think so. But maybe. There's a way to help her carry it, to understand it, to give it meaning." They walked in silence for a while. Then the queen said, "You've become important to her. She looks for you now. She stops crying when she senses you near." Jack didn't know what to say. "You offered your hand in marriage if I could calm her," he said, half-dashed joking. The queen smiled, but there was sadness in her eyes. "It was a desperate offer, but now I wonder, what kind of man can quiet a broken soul? What kind of man would give so much for a child that isn't his?" Jack didn't answer, because he wasn't sure either that night. Jack returned to the memory chamber. The black sphere, the memory seed, still floated in silence. Its surface pulsed gently. He placed his hand near it. Instantly a flood of images hit his mind. A great war. Planets burning, ships falling, a voice calling across time. "Protect the child." Then another memory. A human man and a Threxian woman standing together, holding a baby. "She must carry both our blood. She must remember." Jack stumbled back, gasping. "She's the last echo," he whispered. "A living bridge between our species." Suddenly, someone behind him spoke. "You should not be here." Jack turned. It was Counselor Yevon, one of the Queen's closest advisors. His eyes were cold. "This place holds danger. Should have remained sealed." "And yet your queen brought me here," Jack said calmly. "Maybe because she wants answers?" Yevon stepped forward. "The child's suffering has awakened. Fears in the people. Some believe she is cursed. Some say she is the beginning of the end." Just a child," Jack snapped. "She needs help, not fear." "Then help her from far away. Leave Threxia. Do not return." Jack stood, firm. "No." Yevon's eyes narrowed. "Then you will bring ruin to us all." He turned and left. Jack stared at the seed again. The truth was clear now. Lenari's pain came from a forgotten past, a deep connection between humans and Threxians that had been buried by time and war. She cried because she carried both worlds inside her, and she was too small to hold it alone. The next morning, Queen Varela called an emergency meeting. All major leaders of Threxia attended. The tall chamber was filled with voices, whispers, and worried faces. Jack stood beside the queen as she spoke. "My daughter cries not because of weakness, but because she remembers pain none of us can see. She is not cursed. She is the key."
Ada.
Crowd murmured. Some disagreed. "She is dangerous," one elder shouted. "Let the human take her away." "She is our future," another said quietly. "A child of both stars." Jack raised his voice. You fear her crying, but what if she cries for you? For all of us. What if she remembers things we forgot because we couldn't bear the pain? The room fell silent. She doesn't need to be fixed, Jack said. She needs to be heard. There was no applause, but there was silence, the kind that comes before understanding. That night, Lanari cried again. Jack rushed to her side, but this time the crying didn't scare him. He sang. He held her hand. He stayed close. And slowly, like a sunrise after a storm, she stopped. She looked into his eyes and said a single word. Home. Jack's heart broke and healed in the same moment. She had never known Earth, but still, she called him home. The Queen entered the room quietly. She saw the scene, her daughter calm, her eyes soft, her breathing steady. She walked too. Jack and whispered, "You've done more than calm her. You've given her peace." Jack looked down at Lanari, who was now curled into sleep. "I think she gave me something too." The Queen stepped closer. "And what is that?" Jack smiled. "A reason to stay." The palace was quiet. For the first time in 2 years, the halls did not echo with the cries of Princess Lenore. The royal staff moved softly, as if afraid to break the silence. Outside, the violet leaves of Threxia's crystal trees fluttered, gently. Peace had returned, but it was fragile. In the center of it all stood Captain Jack Raynor, staring out over the city from the palace balcony. He had come to Threxia as a diplomat. He'd expected politics, maybe even war. Instead, he had found a child who cried with the memories of 2 worlds, and a queen who had risked everything to save her. Jack was deep in thought. When Queen Varela arrived beside him, she wore no crown today, no heavy robes. It's just a soft silver dress that caught the morning light. She slept through the night, the Queen said quietly. Jack looked at her. Her eyes were tired but hopeful. How is she this morning? Still silent, but not empty. She seems lighter. Jack nodded. It's working. The songs, the time, the care. It's helping her carry the weight. Varela looked out at the city. You have changed her life, Jack, and mine. Jack didn't speak, because part of him had changed too. Later that day, the Queen asked Jack to visit the Sanctum of Memory, a deep underground place where minds could be linked using ancient Threxian technology. It had not been used in centuries, but now they hoped it might hold answers. Jack followed her through narrow tunnels lit by glowing blue roots. At the center was a circular room. Floating orbs circled above, each filled with light and sound. This is where our ancestors recorded memories, not with words, but with emotions, Varela explained. Like a memory database? Jack asked. Yes, but stronger. You don't just see memories here. You feel them. The Queen handed Jack a thin silver band. This will link your mind with Linares, if you're willing. Jack hesitated. What happens if I get trapped in her memories? Then I will come after you, Varela said softly. But I believe she will guide you. She trusts you. Jack put the band on. The world around him faded. He opened his eyes in darkness, but it was not empty. He was inside Lenari's mind, a strange dreamscape filled with broken stars, shattered glass skies, and the soft sobs of a child echoing in. The wind, Lenari, he called. A small figure appeared far away. A little girl, glowing silver, standing in the middle of a ruined memory. Jack ran toward her as he got closer.
Ow.
The world around them changed. Now he stood in the middle of a burning city. He saw humans and Threxians fighting together, side by side against machines. Strange metal beasts roared through the streets. He saw a man and woman, one human. One Threxian holding a baby and shouting, "She must survive. She must carry the light." Then everything exploded into silence. Jack turned to Lenari. Is this what you see? Every day? She nodded. Tears rolled down her cheeks. It hurts, she whispered. It's not mine, but I feel it. Knelt beside her. You're carrying the pain of an old war, one that ended before you were born, but you're not alone anymore. I'm here. Lenari reached out, touched his face, and whispered, "You're warm." Back in the real world, Jack's body trembled. Varela stood close, watching with worry. Then suddenly, Jack gasped and opened his eyes. He was back. "She showed me everything," he said. "The war, the love, the loss. She remembers what we've forgotten. She's living history." The Queen touched his arm, "And you brought her back from it." Jack nodded. ... But she can't carry it forever. We need to find a way to share it with others so it doesn't crush her." The Queen thought for a long moment. "Then we must awaken the memory seed fully. Let all Threxians feel what she feels. Let them understand her pain," Jack agreed. But it was dangerous. Opening the memory seed meant releasing forgotten history memories. That could cause fear, anger, even panic. But it was the only way to help Lenari. The Queen called for the High Council. They gathered inside the palace's grand hall. Elders, scientists, generals, some still feared Lenari. Others blamed Jack for corrupting the royal child. The Queen stood tall and proud. "I ask for your trust. My daughter's not cursed. She is gifted with memory that belongs to all of us. And we must understand her together." Some shouted. Objections. One elder pointed at Jack. "He is the source of the problem. An outsider. A soldier." Jack stepped forward. "Yes, I'm a soldier. I've seen death, war, and pain. But nothing has wounded me like seeing that little girl cry for memories that were never hers." He paused. "She remembers so we don't have to, but now we must." Varela raised her hand. "Let the memory seed awaken." The council fell silent. In the chamber of the memory seed, all the council members stood in a circle. Lenari stood in the center, holding Jack's hand. Varela stood behind them, her eyes firm. The seed began to glow. Light spread from it like waves, one by one. Everyone in the room saw visions of humans and Threxians building together, and falling together. Tears filled many eyes. Others fell to their knees, and in the middle of it all, Lenari smiled. She felt it too, but this time, she wasn't alone. Her cries were gone. When the light faded, the council sat in silence. Then one elder spoke. "She carries our history. She is our future." The others nodded. No one called her cursed anymore that night. The Queen called Jack to the garden. They walked under the twin moons, side by side. "She's healing," the Queen whispered. "So am I," Jack said. They stopped near a quiet fountain. Varela looked at him. "You once said the offer of marriage was made in desperation." "Yes," Jack said carefully. "Then allow me to make it again, not from desperation, but from hope." Jack smiled. "Are you sure? You gave my daughter peace? Gave me something more? Someone who understands." Jack reached for her hand. Then yes. They stood in silence as stars above them blinked in approval inside the palace. Lenari watched from the window. She smiled too. The sun rose slowly over Threxia Prime, casting soft golden light on the palace towers. The city below shimmered with peace. Birds with glowing wings flew across the sky. Waterfalls poured gently down silver cliffs. And inside the palace, a sound echoed through the halls that no one had ever heard before. Laughter. Not just any laughter, Princess. Linaris laughter. The child who had once cried day and night. The child who screamed at every human face was now giggling, her voice like soft bells in the wind. Servants stopped in shock. Guards dropped their spears. Elders wept quietly. Even the Queen, who had spent 2 long years waking to the sound of her daughter's cries, now stood in stunned silence outside the nursery, her hand over her heart. Inside the room, Jack Rayner sat on the floor, his arms covered in colored drawing ink. Lenori had drawn stars, moons, and strange little creatures all over him. He didn't mind. He just laughed with her. "What's this one supposed to be?" he asked, pointing to a squiggly line. Lenari grinned. "That's you? In a ship? Flying into a big banana?" Jack chuckled. "Banana, huh? That's a strong artistic choice." Lenari nodded proudly. "I like bananas now." It was a small thing, but to Jakanda, to all of Threxiate, meant everything. Later that morning, Queen Varela entered the room. She looked tired but joyful. Linari ran to her mother and hugged her tightly. The queen knelt and kissed her forehead. Her voice trembled. "My light, you are truly free now." Linari nodded. "No more bad dreams, only stars." Jack watched. The two, feeling warmth in his chest. He had seen war, death, and destruction. He had lost comrades and homes. But this moment, this small, perfect moment felt more powerful than any battlefield. In the following days, news of Linari's healing spread across the planet. The people gathered in public squares to hear what had happened. At first there was doubt. How could a child stop crying after 2 full years? How could a human be the reason? Then recordings were shown Linari humming human lullabies. Linari playing with Jack. Linari laughing in her sleep. The people believed. The council voted quickly and without argument. Threxia would join Earth in alliance one of peace, trust, and shared memory. The ceremony would be held in 1 week inside the Crystal Temple, and with it, the royal wedding. Jack stood in his chambers, staring at the suit laid out for him. It wasn't a soldier's uniform. It was white and silver, lined with threads that shimmered like the Threxian moons. Symbols of both Earth and Threxia were stitched across the collar. He still couldn't believe it. A few months ago, he was a lonely diplomat with scars from old wars. Now, he was about to marry a queen and become stepfather to a child who had once cried the pain of an entire species. The night before the wedding, Linari visited him. She wore a small crown of glowing leaves and held a blanket. "I can't sleep," she said softly. Jack smiled. "Want me to sing the song again?" She nodded. Jack sat beside her on the couch and began humming the old Earth lullaby. Her eyes closed. Her breathing slowed. But before she drifted off, she whispered, "Thank you." Me. Jack blinked, surprised. "Of course, I'll always hear you. Even if I forget the song, then I'll sing it louder." She smiled and fell asleep in his arms. The wedding day arrived. The entire city was decorated with floating lights and flower ribbons. Ships from Earth hovered above the palace, their lights flashing in celebration. Threxians and humans stood, side by side, watching history unfold. Inside the Crystal Temple, Queen Varela walked down the aisle wearing a dress made of silver threads and star-shaped jewels. Her long hair flowed behind her like a river of light. Jack stood waiting, dressed like a prince from a fairy tale. They met in the center, where the memory seed now glowed with calm blue light. The priest spoke in both Threxian and English. "Today, 2 worlds become one, not by war, not by blood, but by healing and love." Jack looked at Varela. "When I first came here, I thought this mission would end in failure, but then your daughter cried and everything changed." Varela smiled, and now she laughs, because of you. They held hands. "Do you, Captain Jack Rayner of Earth, accept this bond?" "With all my heart." "Do you, Queen Varela of Threxia, accept this bond? With all my stars?" The memory seed glowed brighter. A wave of warmth passed over the room, and they kissed. The people cheered. Linari threw petals into the air and shouted, "They did it." After the wedding, Jack and Varela stood on the palace balcony as fireworks lit. Up the sky, Linari ran around them, pretending to fly a spaceship. "One day I'll be a captain like Jack," she yelled. "You'll be better than me," Jack called back. Varela leaned against him. "I never thought I would know peace again." "Neither did I." I watched as Linari twirled in the moonlight, her laughter echoing into the night. It wasn't just a happy sound, it was a sign that healing was real, that pain could be shared and overcome, that 2 worlds, once broken by time and memory, could find their way back to each other. Epilogue. Years later, Princess Linari stood on the bridge of a starship, now 16, tall and strong, her eyes bright with curiosity. Her crew was made of both Threxians and humans. They were about to jump to a new galaxy one never explored before. A voice came through the speaker. "Captain Linari, are we ready?" She smiled, engines set. History behind us. Future ahead. She reached into her coat pocket and pulled out a small music chippled and scratched, but still working. She placed it on the console. An Earth lullaby began to play. For home, she whispered, and the stars welcomed her.